All right, let's take a look at this. This is the March-April edition of Faith Today magazine, and you are about to meet the groom. My guest brings a whole new flavor to the title Wedding Planner. Nigel Paul is the founder and director of Movein. He's also a business entrepreneur, BA from Waterloo University in internet business. But you're going to discover it's abundantly clear this is a man who likes to meet people face to face. How many at your wedding last summer?
About 1,200 people, mostly from our neighborhood.
What were you thinking?
Well, my wife is an amazing woman, and we decided to start with an empty picture and say, how do we want to fill this? And we went to the Bible, actually. We read different passages in the Bible about weddings and about parties. And there's that one passage we're all familiar with where Jesus says, when you throw a party, don't invite people who can repay you, but invite people who don't get invited to parties. And he cites the blind and the crippled and the poor and so on. And so Jessie, my wife, and I thought, why don't we invite people who aren't normally invited to weddings to our wedding? And we live in a high needs neighborhood, one of the highest needs neighborhoods in the city.
Toronto.
Yep, it's at Vic Park in Danforth. And our neighbors are underprivileged. A lot of them are broke and they're on their way somewhere.
And 30 cultures represented.
At least 30, yeah. I think that would be a conservative estimate. And we said, why don't we invite our whole neighborhood to our wedding? And so we actually delivered an invitation to every single door in our 4 high-rise building community, 1,000 doors.
1,000 doors?
Yeah, when we did the wedding invitations, we ordered 1,200. And the printer said, 12, is that a typo? Is it 1,200 or 120? I'm used to doing more like 120. No, we said 1,200. And we actually ended up having to photocopy a couple thousand more to get them to everyone we wanted to get them to.
Now, some of the logistics come to mind right away. First of all, food. How did you feed them all?
Well, you know what? We had a limited budget, and actually we pulled the whole thing off for about $5,000. So if anybody wants to have a wedding and have 1,200 people, know that you can do it for $5,000. And we didn't want to go cheap. We didn't want to have paper plates and plastic cups. So we actually spent a big portion of our budget on nice ceramic white plates and dishes because we wanted to have it be a really nice wedding. And yet we also did a potluck. We had all white tents, we had white tables, it was beautifully decorated. It looked like a huge banquet. And the food was brought by our neighbors. And in bringing the food, they felt like they were contributing. And they were to our wedding. I think if someone had said to us, if we had hired a wedding planner and a company to do this wedding, it probably would have cost about $100,000 to have 1,200 guests, but we pulled it off by working together.
No expectation of gifts? This was just...
A little bit, you know. You know what we've discovered is that one of the best ways to bless people
is to receive.
Yeah. And to say, hey, bring gifts if you want. And we had gifts from all around the world. We had gifts that we knew were sacrificially given. And it brings so much joy to people to give gifts.
You had a gift for each of them, if they chose.
That's right.
Bibles, free Bibles on a table.
That's right. In Movein, we have a really awesome partnership with the Canadian Bible Society. And they consider that Toronto has become a mission field, which it is. And so they have partnered with Movein for us to be able to give Bibles to our neighbors all across lots of different neighborhoods. So we had a table full of Bibles for our guests.
Let's take a look. We have some beautiful moments from that day. What was the date?
It was July 9th of last year, so almost exactly a year ago.
Wow. Look at these people. Look at the bride. Your wife is a nurse?
She is.
And she was totally on board for this?
Yes, she was. There were definitely times for both of us of trepidation. Even her wedding dress, which is an Indian sari, she got mixed reactions to prior to the wedding day. And people said, are you sure you want to wear that? And you know, this was a dream she had had long before she met me, to wear an Indian sari at her wedding. And so I was able to stand next to her and say, go ahead and wear it. It's going to bless a lot of people, especially people from India who see you wearing their clothes at your wedding. So it was exciting.
Jesse's beautiful.
There it is, the book table. We had a lot of Bibles go that day.
Now, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
That's right.
This was no quick wedding.
It was a long day. We had 2 sittings. I think you used
Two
the word
shifts.
earlier, shifts. Yeah, we had 2 identical ceremonies. Both
You repeated the whole wedding ceremony.
Yeah, we're both used to being in front of people, and so we were able to do that. It was identical. We did the vows twice.
Wow.
You
And
know.
you're used to a few other things that I'm sure have cultivated the heart for this, the passion for loving your neighbor as yourself.
That's right.
And for reaching the world. You grew up in 3 countries, Nigel.
Yeah. Born in Zambia, Africa, and also lived in Pakistan for 4 years, which enables me to relate to a group of people in Toronto from South Asia, and also went to high school in Kenya.
Wow.
And in between the different countries, lived in the Greater Toronto area. So I look Canadian and sound Canadian, but I'm kind of a mixed bag.
And you speak some of those languages. Of note also, you are the former traveling assistant.
That's right.
To the founder of Operation Mobilization. George Verwer is going to be here on Friday.
I was amazed to hear that. You know, George is my biggest influence in my life, aside from my parents and, of course, Jesus himself. And so when I heard that he will be here on this program in a couple of days, I might come back just to assist him again, you know.
Another huge influence, a man who's very involved and on board with what you're doing, is Charles Price.
Yeah.
I think he leads the church in Canada with the largest number of cultures represented.
It's a pretty amazing church. People from all over the world. I've spoken at People's a couple of times. On a Sunday morning, you just look across the room. And I did something that Desmond Tutu is famous for doing, which is to ask everyone to wave their hands in the air. And he describes it as a rainbow when you have the different cultures in the room. And so I was able to do that at People's Church when I was there, and we had a lot of fun.
Now, this is a wedding.
Yeah.
Unlike any wedding I've heard of. But, you know, the fact that it was so long, and just the way that you did it. I mean, I was at a Hindu wedding, 5 days long. We went to 2 of the 5.
Wow.
And it was just a whole lot of people, and a lot of food, and a lot of celebration.
Yeah.
I'm sure culturally, this is a great connector. How do you want us to plug into this vision?
You know, I think one of the things that puzzles me and drives me is the second commandment. The first commandment is to love God with everything you have. And the second commandment is kind of a strange one. It's love your neighbor. You know, why did God use this word neighbor? Why didn't he say love the needy or love the people that you naturally are drawn to? But instead, God, the creator of the universe, chose to use this word neighbor. And he chose for this to be the greatest commandment after loving him, to love our neighbor. And I think in Canada, as the years have gone by, our culture has shifted a little bit so that sometimes we don't know our neighbors. And I know that that's my own story, is I've lived in different neighborhoods in Canada where I didn't really even know them. And so to love them and to love them as I love myself wasn't really a possibility until at least I knew them. And so in starting Movein, this was one of the driving commandments for me, along, of course, with the Great Commission, to go into all the world and to tell the good news and to lead people to Jesus and to encourage them to keep following Jesus.